Whether or not is recorded before a live guinea pig studio audience. Meteorologist Joe Bastardi here, and apparently Bill Nye, who I happen to think has done a lot of great things for science. And of course, I've been linked with him in a couple of things, but Bill's a huge fish in the climate ocean, so to speak. I'm just a guy that gives my opinion. But I guess he went on some profanity-laced tirade on a show on TV. You can read about it on The Blaze, which is, of course, Glenn Beck's organization there. But the video is on there, and I'm like going, how come you got to use that language? I mean, it's just crazy. Are you angry? It almost looks like he was channeling him. This Bill, he lit the earth on fire, and you have to go see it. But I was looking at him going, wow, he's channeling Muhammad Ali. All right? Look at that. Except there's one problem. The arguments against that, and I can show them to you, aren't going to lie down on the canvas. Now, first of all, climate catastrophes are plummeting. They're not going up. They're going the other way. All right? Per capita income is going up. That's a good thing, isn't it? Life expectancy is going up. You realize this whole area of the chart right here, that whole area is the last 100 years or so. Human life expectancy during the fossil fuel era is going up, and we've increased the population fourfold. So I'm trying to figure out, and maybe I'm, what are you so angry about? I mean, the whole thing, AOC now says, oh, that was just a joke, the 12 years. Well, I'm going to tell you something. What about kids that heard that? They hear it on the nightly news. Well, what about a depressed person that hears that? The article in the New York Times today about how to survive the mass extinction that's coming, right? Well, I'm sitting here looking at it and go, every metric is saying the opposite right now. Look at what's going on with major poverty and prosperity going up, and you see CO2 is going up with it. CO2 is more CO2 in the air. But in the geological history of the planet, there's studies like this that show there's absolutely no linkage. Look at population and food. I'll tell you what CO2 does. It makes it easier for plants to grow, and so we can grow more food. Is that a bad thing? Is that something that you should be getting upset about? Right? Now, I want to explain this to you here. This is what we call saturation mixing ratios. And so this is gram per kilograms of water vapor in the atmosphere. And this explains the whole global warming phenomena, a lot of it, because if you put extra water vapor in the atmosphere, look what happens to where temperatures are at their lowest. They rise more. And why would that be? Because the extra water vapor in the atmosphere is going to cause cloud covers, more storminess, more mixing of the air, so it does not get as cold as if it was just clear and calm or less water vapor in the air. So water vapor is a huge key here, but you can see those relationships. By the time we get to 25, 30 degrees, it takes almost a gram, 3/4 of a gram of water vapor to raise the temperature 5 degrees, or half of what it does with only 1/10 of a gram. Now this is baffling to me. I can understand the argument from folks that, okay, well, there's more CO2 in the air, it's preventing the oceans from cooling enough, so when the warm cycles come, they create more heat, that gets up in the atmosphere. I understand that's the argument, but it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense when you start looking at the fact that these now look, it says here, oh, look at that. Temperature's been rising steadily, right? And someone can make that argument. And I'm not saying that argument's wrong, except that if we look closely, there was a Super Niño in 82, and here's where the temperatures were. Big Super Niño came in 97, 98. Here's where the temperatures were. See, they leveled off. New Super Niño in 15, 16. And it's my theory, and this gets a lot of people aggravated on my side of the global warming issue, that we're at a new plateau now. Now, why would that be, folks? Because these Super Niños put immense amount of water vapor in the air. It's not just a doubling of it. You understand that? If you get a regular El Nino, let's say the temperature warms from 84 to 85. If you warm the temperature from 85 to 87, like a super Nino, you get to +3 Celsius. In Fahrenheit, it's up at 87, 88 degrees. There's much more water vapor released. The question is, where does that water vapor go? Well, most El Ninos, all El Ninos are in the tropics. And what we've seen is there is an increase in water vapor throughout the tropical oceans and the low levels of the atmosphere. There's also an increase in water vapor up across the Arctic regions, but not nearly as much as we see here. Now, when we go back to that mixing ratio chart I showed you, let me find that someplace over here. If we go back, where would you think the most temperature difference would be made from an El Nino? Okay, well, let's just take a look at what's happened. So we go to this 10-year period here, and here's the increase in water vapor. You see it up in the Arctic. Bingo, front row. Most of the planet has not had a big increase in temperature over the last 10, 15 years. It's up in the Arctic. Now, if you're in Antarctic too, if you're factoring this in, and let's say this is an increase in 10 degrees here, then you could go all the way down to the equator and have 5 or 6 points at 0 degrees. You're still going to get overall a big increase. But you can see the warming is distorted. And you can see the link with the water vapor if you simply look at the mixing ratios and then go look where the water vapor increases, right? This is 2-3 grams up in here. Of course it's going to warm, right? But so we have no mixing ratio charts for CO2. Okay, now I'm not mad. I'm not swearing. Listen, they could be right. I mean, at least I'm one of these guys. Go, well, look, I've read your argument. I can see what you're saying, but there are a lot of other factors involved. Okay, and why shouldn't someone question this? Okay, so and look where the temperatures are warm right now. Right, they're warm across the Arctic and some in the Antarctic. But when you get here, there's almost equal cold and warm. Where most people live, where life thrives. All right? Now, here's something. If CO2 is in control of the whole thing, why are we seeing the oceans cool like this? Why do the oceans cool and warm seemingly with no relationship to CO2? What could possibly be causing that? All right? Now, remember, CO2 is steadily increasing, but we have these cycles in the ocean that seem to just ignore it. Now look at the upper ocean heat content. We've had this El Nino going on. It's a weak El Nino, but it's dropping rapidly. Now look at this. How is CO2 responsible? Think about this now. How is CO2 in the atmosphere responsible for the cooling that is now taking place in the deep levels of the ocean? All right, and that will work its way up. See this right here? See what it was 3 weeks ago? Nothing. 4 weeks ago, or whatever it was. So this cooling water is beginning to take. Now, where does that come from? How does that happen at that depth, right? How does an extra 1 part per million of CO2, okay, over a period of a year or 2 years or whatever, we've increased 1 gram out of every 1 gram of CO2 out of every 10,000 grams of the atmosphere over a 100-year period. How is that influencing water that's cool here that when it comes to the top will result in a bit of a drop in the global temperature, right? Well, why is that? Because a cooler surface means there's less water vapor. There's still plenty of water vapor, but not as much as when the surface is warm. Now, this is from Dr. Willie Soon. Now, I want you to look at this. This is total solar irradiance versus the Northern Hemisphere temperature record, all right? In other words, when the sun is strong, and you see this through 1940, almost to 1960, we were rising with temperatures. We came down. That's right, we did come down, and people were talking about a new ice age. They want to deny that. But we've been coming up since because the sun is so strong. Now, what's going to happen in the coming years when the sun is weakening? Well, the intuitive answer, of course, is that we're actually going to cool. However, there's a lot of heat in the oceans. We know that. It's my take that the oceans are cyclical in nature, all right? And so that heat has to be gotten rid of somehow or the other. And you get rid of it in forms of, the interaction between the atmosphere and the oceans. But anyway, this how do you sit here and here's the link by a PhD in astrophysics, okay? Here's the linkage, and you say, no, that doesn't count. Well, I'll tell you what, that linkage looks a lot better than this linkage. There's CO2 in the purple, there's temperature. They look like they're linked, all right? The problem here is that politicians are throwing money that they do not have at a problem that does not exist in order to finance solutions that make no sense, all right? I wanted to show you this too, that the link with the U.S. postage stamps to global temperatures is better than CO2. There's CO2 there. There's a postage stamp. Of course, we had a Homer Simpson postage stamp here, and back there we had like the Model T. But take a look. It's in Pennsylvania. And this is an all pain no gain proposal that's being put out there under the guise that it's actually going to do something. This is what the range of impact it's going to have. So Pennsylvania is 4.2% of the U.S. By 2050, the actions of these programs that they're going to enact that are going to really affect the economy, going to make a 0.0013 Celsius difference. And look, I'll tell you what, I mean, this comes right from the former EPA director and what the Obama administration was up to, all right? It's that we're supposed to be examples for the rest of the world. I submit to you that economic suicide is not an example. I also submit to you that if you actually look at what's going on, and you take a look at all the different aspects of this. Let me see if I can put this on here. There, you will find that there's Bill, and he looks nasty. I mean, I'm not going to mess with him over there. I think that bow tie is looking bigger over there. Again, let me again say that I think on balance, Bill Nye has done a great job in educating people and everything. I just disagree with him on this. But he does look like he's trying to channel Muhammad Ali, except what I showed you is that it's not Sonny Liston he would be fighting, okay, that would get back up off the canvas. In fact, probably would never be down on the canvas when you actually look at the actual data. All right, I think you've had enough for today, right? Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.